Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. First, let's take a look at the headlines. US airlines cancel nearly 800 flights after the Federal Aviation Administration's order to reduce traffic across 40 airports over the record government shutdown. Pakistan and Afghanistan's Taliban hold another round of peace talks in Turkey, meant to seal the ceasefire deal agreed on in Qatar. The talks come after deadly border clashes last month between the two nations that threatened a fragile truce. Peru declares Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum persona non grata, says after cutting diplomatic ties with Mexico for sheltering the ex-PM facing charges linked to a 2022 coup attempt. Taiwan's exports hit a record high last month, soaring nearly 50% over rising demand for semiconductor chips for artificial intelligence technology. And two blasts near a mosque at an Indonesian school in Jakarta injure at least 20. The cause of the explosions is still under investigation. Hello and welcome. Today we begin our show with the latest updates from the war-torn Sudan, where the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have agreed to a humanitarian truce after fighting the Sudanese Army for more than 2 years. The announcement came days after the RSF took over the city of El-Fasher. The RSF said that the decision to accept the proposal tabled by the US, Egypt, the UAE and Saudi Arabia was in the interest of the Sudanese people. The paramilitary added that the ceasefire was needed to address the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of the war.
The Rapid Support Forces confirmed their approval of the humanitarian truce proposed by the Quad countries: the United States of America, the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the Arab Republic of Egypt. This is to ensure that the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of the war are addressed and to enhance the protection of civilians by completing the terms of the Agreement on Humanitarian Truces to allow the delivery of humanitarian aid.
Meanwhile, the military-aligned government has not yet reacted to the RSF announcement. But earlier, the Sudanese Army chief said that his forces were striving for the defeat of the enemy and to avenge the killings of people. The army has also indicated its intent to continue fighting the paramilitary forces, despite this ceasefire proposal. The remarks were made after an internal huddle earlier this week. Meanwhile, the US State Department called on both sides to finalize the truce. The details of the proposal are not out yet, but a Saudi Arabian official reportedly said that the plan outlines a 3-month humanitarian truce in all of Sudan. Then efforts will be made to bring the RSF and army to the negotiating table in Jeddah for a permanent peace deal.
Pretty frequent communication with those Arab partners that I just mentioned, and we want to see this conflict come to a peaceful end, just as we have with so many others, but the reality is it's a very complicated situation on the ground right now.
The announcement of a temporary truce came days after horrifying reports of mass violence surfaced from El-Fasher after the RSF takeover. The city, which now reels under mass killings, looting, sexual assaults and famine, was the last stronghold of the Sudanese Army in Western Darfur. According to a report, new satellite imagery from the city showed activity consistent with mass graves. The report identified at least 2 earth disturbances at a mosque and a former children's hospital. The researchers noted that the appearance of meters-long trenches and the disappearance of objects were consistent with a cluster of bodies being buried. The report on mass graves followed the incident of the tragic killings of more than 460 patients and medical staff at the hospital in El-Fasher, with both the RSF and the Sudanese Army facing accusations of committing atrocities. The UN Human Rights Council has called an urgent session on the situation in El-Fasher next week. The battle in El-Fasher gave the RSF control over all 5 state capitals in Darfur. This triggered fears of potentially dividing Sudan into 2 parts, effectively along an east-west axis. The RSF now dominates Darfur and parts of the south, while the army controls the north, east and central regions along the Nile and Red Sea. The fight between the 2 warring sides has spread to central Kordofan region. But with the acceptance of a truce proposal, will the war that has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions and triggered the world's largest displacement and hunger crisis finally abate? For more on this, we have with us Aladdin Nugud, the official spokesperson of TAS-IS Alliance and the Minister of Health for the Sudan Peace Government. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in the show.
Let's first look at this RSF acceptance of a peace proposal. Do you think that this will put pressure on the Sudanese government to also agree to a deal?
Yeah, I think the acceptance of the RSF to the truce is something important. And by the way, it's not something new. Since the start of this war, always the RSF goes for the peace platforms with highly acceptance of stopping the war. That's happened in Jeddah first talk, Jeddah second talk, Al-Manama, Geneva first talk, and Geneva second talk, and even the IGAD. Always who was spoiling the peace platforms and prevented peace from being there is the SAF. And this is usually because of the SAF is controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood dissolved NCP party, which was the people revolt against in December 2018. So the SAF, by initiating or erupting this war, they want to bring back Muslim Brotherhood NCP back to power, despite the will of the Sudanese people to get Muslim Brotherhood out of power. This is the main cause of that spoiling all peace platforms. And even right now in this truce, who will reject, or actually they already rejected the truce by the meeting of the Peace and Security Council that they did 2 days ago. They get out with a statement that they are going for popular uprising and popular resistance, and they ask these people to be armed against the Rapid Support Forces that they called militia. And actually, the Rapid Support Forces is a governmental military institution and it's part of the army. And it's even wrong to leave the name of the army since the beginning of this war to the SAF. By the way, the RSF has legislation from the Sudan parliament, and it is official governmental military institution.
Let's build on those comments. Of course, in recent times, the RSF had captured El-Fasher, the last Sudanese army stronghold. How significant is that to this acceptance from the RSF?
Okay, Joshua, by the way, right now I'm speaking to you from El-Fasher. We reached El-Fasher like 2 days ago, and there is nothing about all this in the media, fake media campaign about mass graves, about extrajudicial killing, about like what they call Tom Fletcher in the UN Security Council, ethnic cleansing. These are all fake media campaign. What's happened in El-Fasher is a routine military operation since the war erupted in 2023, and El-Fasher liberation took a long time. It was like 1.5 years. Why? Because the fighters in El-Fasher were from the joint forces who were supposed to be in a neutral state, and they started the war. They were in neutral state, but actually Al-Burhan
with a video nucleus. Israel also attacked central Gaza.
Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.
Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.
Hello and welcome to Planet Pulse.
I'm Rupa Ramani, and Firstpost brings you the ringside view. We reach 200 countries and regions. We hope to tell India's growth story, and we will continue to do so with credibility as a North Star. Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palkishan. We are tracking the escalation between India and Pakistan. India's air defense systems kicked in. It's not enough to attack the adversary.
Involved in this, and this was because of the high strategic security and historical importance of Al-Fasher. The capturing and liberation of Al-Fasher will open the way for a liberation of many other cities. Right now, Baba Nusa, Al-Ubayd is near to be liberated.
There have been UN comments and comments from world leaders about the situation in El-Fasher, but as you say, you are on the ground, so thank you for that insight. As we bring an end to this discussion, I just want to look at what a peace deal could mean for the people living within the country. Of course, a clear divide now between RSF-held land and Sudanese Army held land, but a war-torn country, displacement and of course deaths in the tens of thousands reported. How significant could this be for the people of Sudan?
Actually, what is significant for the people of Sudan is to put an end to this war. But this is against the SAF will. The SAF always, as I said in the beginning of the interview, they spoiled all peace platforms. Why? Because they erupted the war to bring back the Muslim Brotherhood and dissolve NCP to power again. And this is what will not be accepted by any Sudanese, and not even by the RSF or by TASIS, but all Sudanese. They get out in December 2018 against the dissolved NCP. Right now we are in Al-Fasher. After liberation of Al-Fasher, we just came from a displaced camp where we delivered a humanitarian aid, like 3 trucks of humanitarian aid of flowers, sugar, oil, sesame, salt, many things we delivered right now. We are going back. I think people is happy right now after liberation of Al-Fasher, and whenever the SAF and the military intelligence is out of area, people are feeling safe. Why? Because the SAF usually used to ignite war between tribes. They used to arm tribes against other tribes. What is contemplating ethnic cleansing actually is the SAF. The SAF, or the Sudanese Armed Forces, since 1956, it didn't work with Sudanese people. It always initiating war against Sudanese.
Aladdin, thank you ever so much for your time and for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's now shift focus to rising tensions between the United States and Nigeria after Donald Trump's military action threat over the alleged persecution of Christians. The president of the West African nation, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has vowed to defeat terrorism through diplomatic engagement.
The task ahead is immense. We are engaging the world diplomatically, and we assure all of you that we will, defeat terrorism.
Earlier, Tinubu rejected Trump's accusations of Christians being targeted in Nigeria, saying the Nigerian constitution guarantees religious freedom. However, the country seems to be treading with much caution. Despite denying Trump's accusations, it has welcomed support from foreign nations, including the US, in its fight against terrorism. But Abuja's response hasn't been acknowledged by the Trump administration yet. Instead, the US president reiterated his warning over the alleged killings of Christians in Nigeria. He also reiterated his order to prepare a plan for an attack and threatened to halt US aid.
The Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians. The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians.
And Trump's remarks have angered many Nigerians. Some even cautioned that the Republican leader's accusations could trigger religious tensions in the country, while others urged the US to respect Nigeria's sovereignty.
Both US and Nigeria have sovereignty, and that word exists for a reason. I do not see the reason why Donald Trump, President of the United States, will be drumming the drums of war over Nigeria for things that are really not founded.
The diplomatic row between the US and Nigeria started last week after Washington added Abuja to the countries of particular concern list over alleged violations of religious freedoms. Later, Trump passed the Pentagon to map out a possible plan of attack for Nigeria and refused to rule out military action or deployment of troops in the African nation. The back and forth went between Nigerian and American authorities and comes amid the African nation's struggle with terrorism. Nigeria's northeast reels under violence linked to the notorious Boko Haram group and Islamic State-linked insurgents. According to the United Nations, the violence has killed more than 40,000 people and displaced nearly 2 million over more than a decade. Nigerian officials claim that the violence in the country, which is roughly evenly split between a mostly Christian south and Muslim majority north, is not religious. Next, we head to Somalia, where a fresh pirate attack is sounding the alarm for global trade and business. A gasoline-carrying tanker travelling from India to South Africa has been stopped by pirates off the Somalian coast. This is the biggest escalation relating to piracy in the region since 2024. The incident is evolving, with 24 crew members still on board. Let's break down what's happened so far. The Malta-flagged Hellas Aphrodite had left Gujarat in India and was en route to Durban, South Africa. The Greek-owned vessel was around 560 nautical miles southeast of the Somali town of El. But at 11:48 a.m. local time on Thursday, the ship was approached by pirates. They then opened fire on the ship before boarding it.
The master of a vessel has reported being approached by one small craft on its stern. The small craft fired small arms and RPGs towards the vessel.
A European naval force has responded, scrambling quickly to intercept the tanker seized by pirates. The ship's owner, Latsko, has released this statement.
All 24 crew are safe and accounted for, and we remain in close contact with them. The firm has activated its emergency response team and is coordinating with the relevant authorities to ensure the continued safety and welfare of the crew.
On board are a Montenegrin captain, 5 crew members from Greece, with the remaining crew all Filipino nationals. But there was no armed security on board, according to reports. The crew have sheltered in the Citadel, a fortified safe room on board. A series of targeted attacks by Somali pirates in the past week or so had put shippers on edge, even prior to Thursday's seizure. Somali pirates seized an Iranian fishing boat in recent days, and it appears they are using this as a base, though Iran haven't acknowledged the boat's capture as of yet. Just today, a liquefied natural gas tanker evaded pirates near Somalia, that according to maritime security sources. Previously, piracy peaked off the Somali coast in 2011. That year, 237 attacks were reported. These attacks cost the world economy approximately $7 billion, while $160 million was paid out in ransoms. The last comparable boarding in the region was in May of 2024. EU naval forces later rescued the 17-member crew. International Navy patrols and a strengthened central government in Somalia had seen incidents like these diminish in recent times. But Somali pirate attacks have increased at pace over the last year, in part due to insecurity caused by Yemeni Houthi rebel assaults in the Red Sea shipping corridor. But this boarding is unprecedented in recent times, with heightened concern after attacks in the Red Sea from Yemen. Global economics may again be jolted with the rising frequency of pirate attacks near Somalia. But for those 24 crew members still aboard the Hellas Aphrodite, safety is their only thought. We will continue to keep you updated on this developing story. And for our final story today, let's shift focus to India, deepening its ties with African nations. Increasing India's outreach to the continent, the country's President Draupadi Murmu is set to embark on a 6-day visit to the continent. Her visit outlines India's growing focus on the global south and its bid to strengthen ties with African nations. The Indian president will be travelling to the Central African nation of Angola and then to the Southern African nation of Botswana, marking the first official visit by an Indian head of state to both countries.
The Honourable President will be paying a state visit to Angola and Botswana from November 8th to 13th. This will be the first ever state visit by an Indian head of state to Angola and Botswana. As all of you are familiar, India's engagement with Africa has been growing across all key pillars, from political to trade and economic to development partnership and people-to-people connections. There have been numerous high-level political engagements at the level of head of state, head of government, vice president, EAM. These engagements have allowed us to deepen our cooperation with the African region across sectors.
During her visit, the president will hold bilateral talks with Angola's president and attend celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the country's independence on November the 11th. She is also scheduled to address the Angolan parliament. Her visit to the southern African nation follows the Angolan president's visit to India in May of this year, which led to the signing of a series of agreements to deepen strategic ties. This included a defence credit line of $200 million by India to support the modernisation of Angola's armed forces. India and Angola have completed 40 years of diplomatic relations, and India is one of Angola's top trading partners. New Delhi's crude oil imports from Angola accounts for about 90% of bilateral trade, while the bilateral trade between the two nations stood at $4.1 billion in the 2023-2024 year. After Angola, the Indian president will head to Botswana on November the 11th. There as well, she would hold talks with her counterparts to discuss bilateral cooperation and address the National Assembly of Botswana. Visiting sites of cultural and historical importance are also part of her schedule.
On the second leg of visit, Honorable Rashtrapati will be visiting Botswana from 11 to 13 November at the invitation of the President of Botswana, His Excellency. During the visit, Honorable Rashtrapati will be holding bilateral talks with her counterpart. The two leaders will discuss and explore new avenues for enhancing bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade and investments, technology, energy, agriculture, health, pharmaceuticals, defense, and people-to-people ties.
India is also engaging with Botswana for the translocation of cheetahs. Botswana has expressed its readiness to send a good number of cheetahs to India under Project Cheetah, symbolising deepening environmental and conservation ties. President Murmu's Africa visit comes ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's proposed trip to South Africa for the G20 summit on October the 22nd and 3rd. He also plans to travel to a few other African nations. Earlier this year, PM Modi visited Ghana and Namibia. The visit was a boost to India's quest for energy and national resources and underscored the country's focus on security and defence partnership.
The visit of Honorable Rashtrapati Ji has to be seen in this larger context of high priority accorded by Government of India in expanding partnership with the African region. Honorable Rashtrapati Ji will be visiting first Angola from 8 to 11 November at the invitation of her counterpart from Angola.
India's ties with Africa have expanded significantly in recent years, with an emphasis on capacity building, digital public infrastructure, energy transition, mineral and multilateral cooperation. The Indian president's visit is expected to further cement these strategic relations and push forward India's leadership role in the global south. That's it on the show. We will see you again on Monday at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.